In this video, we're covering equations with algebraic fractions. So just to recap some of these things we need to use when solving equations, the first thing we're going to look at is your inverse operations. So plus and minus, their inverse or opposite. Multiplying and dividing are also opposite. The square root and squaring are also opposite. So remember, the goal when solving an equation is to identify the prime numeral. That is your solution. For example, finding x equals a number or a equals a number, some sort of letter equals a number. So on your screen, we have our first example. I want to just rewrite it. I like to write it a little bit bigger. Now the first thing we need to do is, the goal, remember, is to get a by itself. I need to get rid of that divided by 9 that's seen here on the bottom. All right, I need to get rid of that. So if it's divided by 9, remember the opposite of division is multiplication. So we'll times both sides by 9, because what you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do to the other. So that means this 9 and this 9 now cancel out, and I rewrite what is left over. So the only thing left on this left side is 2a, and now we have 2 times 9, which is 18. Now I have 2a equals 18. Now a little side note, remember 2a is the same as having 2 times a. So that's a multiplication, and we said the opposite of multiplication is division. So we'll divide both sides by 2. Those 2's cancel out, and I'm left over with the a, it stays, equals 18 divided by 2, which is 9. So there you go, that is your solution. So all you do is do one step at a time, doing the opposite of what you're trying to remove. So here's another one. I'll rewrite it over here. Now the goal here is, last time we got rid of that division, but before we get rid of the division, we need to get rid of this here first, this plus 2. So when you have a fraction, usually you do get rid of the bottom number. But in this case, because there's a number that's not part of that fraction, we want to get rid of that first. So to do that, it's plus 2, and the opposite was minus 2. So that cancels out. Our fraction stays there, so x plus 1 over 4 equals 10 take away 2, which is 8. We then want to get rid of our 4 on the bottom, and that's divided by 4, so the opposite is times 4. We're only left with what was on top, which is x plus 1. Then we have 8 times 4. And then finally we get rid of the last part, which is that plus 1. And we do the opposite of plus 1, which is minus 1. So they cancel out. And we're left with x equals 32 take away 1, which is 31. So here's another example. So as you can see, I'm doing different variations so you can see how they're solved. Alright, this time we have 2 fractions, so we want to get rid of that 3 on the bottom over here. So we're going to times 3, and that goes up here, times 3. Alright, so these 3's cancel out. I'm left with 2k equals 15 over 4. And then we're going to divide by 2. So divide by 2. Now when you're dividing, you have this fraction divided by 2. Essentially, you're multiplying that bottom 4 by 2. So we get k equals 15 over 8. Now, if you do get stuck there, you can use a calculator. You could go 15 over 4 divided by 2 in your calculator, and you'll get 15 over 8. So if you want, you could use the calculator for that section. Alright, here's our next question. Now, yeah, we have fractions on both sides, but it's a little bit more complex this time. So we have y's on both sides as well. I don't want fractions at all, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the 5 by multiplying it up here, and transfer the 4 by multiplying it up here. So these arrows are multiplication arrows. So what I'm left with is 4, 2y minus 1 equals 5y plus 1. We then have our expansion, so we'll draw our arrows there. Remember, each arrow represents multiplication. So 4 times 2y is 8y. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Then we have 5 times y, which is 5y. 5 times 1, which is 5. I then want to get all the y's to the same side. So I like to have the letters on the left-hand side. So knowing that, I'm going to minus 5y, minus 5y. Notice how I wrote the minus 5y underneath the 8y. Because remember, they have to be under the same thing, the same like term. So y's have to be under y's. So 8y take away 5y is 3y, take away 4, because that hasn't changed, that's remained. And we're left with 5 over here. We then can get rid of the 4, so plus 4, plus 4. Now it might seem like there's a lot going on, but if you notice, I'm doing each step one at a time. I don't have to go back and look at what's happened previously. I'm just one step at a time until I get to my solution. So we have 3y, and remember that's 3 times y. So we're going to divide by 3. So we get y equals 9 divided by 3, which is 3. Now again, you can look at each part as one singular thing. All right, each step is one step at a time. Here we have another one. This time the fractions are on the same side, so we do our cross multiply. So the first thing we do is we multiply the bottom to get our new denominator, so 2 times 3. Which is 6. We have 3 times 3, so 9a, and then 2 times a, which is 2a. We know that equals 1. Now that we have the same denominator, we can add those fractions and get 9a plus 2a over 6 equals 1. Simplify it further. And then what I can do is times by 6 to get rid of this divided by 6. And then divide by 11. Alright, another one. This time we have fractions everywhere. We follow the same procedure we just did, though. We want to solve our left-hand side first. So we'll cross multiply. So we get 30 on the bottom, because 6 times 5 is 30. We get 5 bracket w plus 3. And then 6w minus 1. We can expand these out. So 5w plus 15, 6w minus 6, and then what I want to do is combine it, so this becomes 5w plus 15 minus 6w plus 6, because a minus and a minus make a positive, all over 30 equals 1 over 3. So I can add my like terms here. So what I get is 5w take away 6w is negative w. 15 plus 6 is 21 over 30 equals 1 over 3. Let's get rid of that 30 on the bottom by timesing. So I'm left with minus w plus 21, I'll show the cancellation, equals 30 over 3, which can be simplified down. So minus w plus 21 equals 3, minus 21, minus 21. Negative 18, and because there's negatives on both sides, they also cancel out. So that was one of the more complex questions you'll come across. There you go. But again, one step at a time until you eventually get down to your answer. Now to recap the video, remember your inverse operations, plus and minus are opposite, times or multiplying and dividing are opposites, square rooting and squaring are opposites, and your goal is to get a pronumeral equals a number, so x equals something, a equals something, so forth. And remember, one step at a time. Baby steps until you get to the answer. You don't have to do multiple steps if you don't want to. You can do one step until you get there.